You better hang on tight as we get into Sylvester Stallone and Rennie Harlin's first movie together. Let's do it. And if you're an action fan, as I am, the movie I'm referring to is 1993's Cliffhanger. This movie came out in May of 1993. I remember seeing this in the movie theaters in Hazleton, Pennsylvania when it came out. And I always loved this film. This film is an hour and 53 minutes long. It's rated R. This movie had a nice, healthy budget of $70 million, and upon release in America, it made 84, and worldwide, it made 255. Very successful movie for Sylvester Stallone, who was just coming off Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which was a big bomb and just an awful, terrible freaking movie, unfortunately for Stallone. He never had luck with those comedies. Even though Stallone can be very funny, his comedies in the 90s sucked so bad. But anyway, now Rennie Harlin just had a string of hits with Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Die Hard 2 was a huge hit. Unfortunately, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which came out the same year as Die Hard 2, wasn't a hit. But Die Hard 2 kind of overshadowed that, and he got this film. Actually, him and Stallone at Calerico were planning on making a movie called Gale Force, which was a movie about an ex-Navy SEAL guy who's in this town who's having a hurricane, and these bad guys robbing something. And they were going to make that at Calerico and TriStar Pictures, but the budget was getting out of hand, and they didn't think they can do it for a reasonable budget, so they canceled that film, and Rennie Harlin and Sylvester Stallone signed on to do Cliffhanger. Now we got Sylvester Stallone in here as Gabriel Walker. We got the great Michael Rooker as Hal Tucker. We got John Lithgow as Quaylen, and the funny thing about that role, they actually hired Christopher Walken first for Quaylen, but Christopher Walken dropped out, and they brought in John Lithgow, which John Lithgow is fantastic in this film. And Janine Turner plays Jessie. And Jesse, Hal Tucker, and Gabriel Walker work for the Park Service in Colorado in the Rockies, and they rescue people that get trapped up on these cliffs or mountains. They help out any way they can. They work for the Park Service. In the beginning of the film, Michael Rooker takes his girlfriend. They're stranded on top of what they call the tower in the film. His knee dislocated, so they can't climb down. So Janine Turner, who flies the helicopter for the Park Service, takes Sylvester Stallone up, and they're going to get them out of there, and something bad happens, and Michael Rooker's character's girlfriend ends up falling to her death in a very tense scene, by the way. It's very well directed. Rennie Harlin was great at those films. Say what you want about Rennie Harlin. I love when he did action pictures, the big budget studio pictures. Die Hard 2 is not better than the first Die Hard, but I even have fun with that movie. And unfortunately, after this, Rennie Harlin did Cutthroat Island, which is considered one of the biggest bombs of all time. But then he made a great action film the year after that with The Long Kiss Goodnight, although that movie didn't do that well either. Anyway, back in the movie. And from there, we're introduced to the U.S. Treasury Service, and they're about to move a bunch of bills that aren't in circulation to another facility. And this is where we get a spectacular action set piece where we have criminals, Quaylen, in one plane that pulls up next to across from the Treasury plane. And after this one guy who works for Treasury kills all of his guys, they're trying to transfer the money from the plane to the other plane on a cable. Now, there's in the movie, the actor, the stuntman, goes from plane to the other plane. That was considered for a long time as the most expensive aerial stunt of all time. They paid the stuntman $1 million to make that crossover between planes. So that's actually all practical. They did that for real when the guy goes from plane to plane. And they did that in the United States because they couldn't do it in Europe, where they filmed most of this film in Italy. They couldn't do it over there. It was illegal, so they had to do it in the United States. But they actually did that for real, folks, and it's spectacular. And then the bad guys, the money gets lost because something goes wrong. One of the guys on the plane aren't as dead as they thought, and he starts shooting, and the bags of money they fall over the Rockies, and they end up crashing their plane. And now they're just trying to find this money so they can continue on with their plan. And this is where Sylvester Stallone and Michael Rooker come in. They get called. There's a call they call for distress because they need help locating these bags because they're unfamiliar with the area. And Michael Rooker and Sylvester Stallone show up, realize they're bad guys, and get taken hostage to show them where the bags are. And after that, we get action scene after action scene, and it's glorious. I love this film. There's spectacular action scenes throughout the film. Some real nail-biting set pieces with them climbing up rock faces and making impossible jumps. I mean, Rennie Harlin there was always a tinge of over-the-topness with the action, and there is that here. But it's so well done, and everybody's so committed to the roles that you just go with it. And They actually cut one jump out of the film or shortened it. Originally, in the original cut of the film, there was a jump that Stallone made. It was like 40 feet from one cliff to another. And in a test screen, the audience laughed. So the studio made them cut it down and make it more realistic. Now, there's still some over-the-top shit in this movie, but it's still glorious in all of its glory. And at the end of the film, we got our final confrontation between Quaylen and Stallone. And Stallone is our action hero, and he kills him by sending him in his helicopter down in this gorge and explodes. And that's the end of the film. Now, Sylvester Stallone gives his all in every movie he's ever in. Even if the movie sucks around him, Stallone is always good in films. Michael Rooker, as kind of his partner in crime in this film, or his partner in this film, is fantastic. Michael Rooker is a very underrated actor, and whenever he shows up, he always brings his all, too. John Lithgow, now Christopher Walken would have been an interesting choice for the villain. Now, we know Christopher Walken could do that in his sleep, but I am glad John Lithgow got the role because he's glorious. He does not give a shit who he has to kill to get this money and get out of there. There's a part where there's this woman on their crew who does the flying, and there comes a point where they get this helicopter because they kill the helicopter pilot who's with the Park Service, and he's kind of having a back and forth with the ex-Treasury agent about who's in charge and that, and you get the sense that him and his girl might be dating, but you're not sure. They never say it. And he says this line, he puts his arm around her and says, you know what true love is? Making sacrifices. And he shoots her like 3 times and kills her. And then he's like, I'm the only guy who can fly this helicopter. I'm going to sit here. You guys go find the goddamn money and we'll get out of here. And it just shows you what kind of guy he is. He doesn't give a shit who he has to kill, even if it's somebody he's dating, to get what he wants. And he really sells it. And he chews the scenery, but he's fantastic in this role. He's a really great bad guy. And Janine Turner is good in this role, in her role too. And all the actors do well, and it's well filmed. I mean, Rennie Harlan was great at filming those things. I know he still directs, but he's not as high profile as he used to be. Now, obviously this film was set in Colorado. It was filmed mostly in Italy. They did a little bit of filming in Colorado. Like I said, they did the air stunt in America because they couldn't do it in Europe. There was a sequel idea for this film, but they had a script and everything, but they just never did it. And I think that's about it for trivia. But what would I rate Cliffhanger? I would give this film an 8.75 out of 10. I've always enjoyed this film. I think it's a little long. I think they could have shaved 10 minutes off of it. But the action scenes are well filmed. Stallone's great. The whole cast is great. Rennie Harlan directs the shit out of this film, just like he does most of his films. And I would highly recommend if you've never seen Cliffhanger. Have you seen Cliffhanger? I just gave it 8.75 out of 10. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of this Sylvester Stallone film. And also, what is your favorite Sylvester Stallone action film outside of Rocky and Rambo? Let me know down below. It'd be awesome to hear from you on that. And do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks. Bye.